She said it right there at the Thanksgiving table, with the turkey still steaming, and my grandchildren sitting close enough to hear every word. My daughter-in-law set down her wine glass with that particular kind of slowness that meant she'd been waiting to say this for a while. "You're completely useless. You just show up, take up space, and act like we should be grateful." The table went quiet. My son looked at his plate. My grandchildren, Lily, who was 9, and Mason, who was 11, looked at me with wide, uncertain eyes. The kind of eyes that ask, "Is everything okay?" without saying a word. I had driven 4 hours that Wednesday. I brought the sweet potato casserole she specifically requested, the homemade cranberry sauce from my mother's recipe, and 2 bags of groceries because I knew she never planned enough food. I had washed dishes that weren't mine, kept the kids entertained so she could nap before dinner, and set the table while she got dressed for the second time that day. And I was useless. I looked at her across that table, her highlighted hair, her new jewelry, the kitchen renovation I had quietly funded 6 months earlier, and I felt something shift inside me. Not anger, exactly. Something older and colder than anger. Clarity. "You might be right," I said, keeping my voice very even. "So from now on, I'll stop." She laughed, actually laughed. "Stop what? All of it." She thought I meant the dishes. I should tell you a little about who I am and how I got to that table. My name is Beverly. No, wait, let me start over. I've been telling this story for months now, piecing it together in my head during the long drives home and the quiet evenings in my house in Asheville, North Carolina. I'm 63 years old. I retired 2 years ago after 31 years as a licensed physical therapist. I raised my son, Derek, mostly on my own after his father, and I divorced when Derek was 7. We didn't have much, but we had enough, and I made sure Derek never felt the lack of it. I worked hard. I saved carefully. And when Derek grew up and married Tamara 12 years ago, I welcomed her into my life with everything I had. Tamara came from a difficult background. She'd be the first to tell you that, actually, usually when she needed something. Her parents were gone. She had a complicated relationship with her sister, and she leaned on family heavily. I understood that. I tried to be the steady presence she didn't have growing up. Over the years, that meant a lot of things. It meant the down payment on their first house. $40,000 given as a gift, not a loan, because I didn't want money to sit between us like a stone. It meant covering 2 months of their mortgage when Derek's company downsized and he was between jobs. It meant a used minivan when Lily was born because Tamara said the sedan wasn't safe enough, and I believed her. It meant piano lessons for Mason, orthodontia for Lily, and a weekend trip to Disney World that I paid for because Tamara had mentioned, 3 times in 2 weeks, that the kids had never been. I'm not listing these things to make myself sound generous. I'm listing them because you need to understand what the word useless meant coming from her mouth. Derek knew where the money came from. He thanked me, always. But he was also the kind of man who believed that peace at home was worth almost any price, and, over the years, the price had gotten very high. The first time I noticed something was wrong, truly wrong, was about 2 years before that Thanksgiving. I had come to visit for Mason's birthday. He was turning 9. I brought gifts. I baked his favorite cake, chocolate with peanut butter frosting. And I drove up on a Friday afternoon so I'd be there when he got home from school. When I arrived, Tamara met me at the door and told me the party was actually Sunday, not Saturday, and could I come back tomorrow? I had booked a hotel room for 2 nights. I had rearranged 3 patient appointments. I stood on her doorstep with a birthday cake in a carrier and looked at my daughter-in-law's face and saw nothing there that looked like sorry. "Mason will be so disappointed I'm not here when he gets home," I said, carefully. "He'll be fine," she said. "Kids are resilient." I called Derek that night from my hotel room. He told me Tamara was stressed about the party planning and I should try not to take it personally. I said I understood. I didn't sleep well. Looking back, that was the moment I should have said something real. Instead, I bought Mason an extra gift from the gift shop downstairs and told myself that keeping the peace was the loving thing to do. It wasn't. It was just the easy thing. And I confused the two for a long time. After the birthday incident, I started noticing the pattern. Tamara was warm when she needed something and cool when she didn't. When Derek's water heater broke the winter after Mason's turned 9, I got a phone call on a Tuesday morning. "Oh, we hate to ask, but would you be able to help?" And I wired the money by Thursday. 2 weeks later, I called to see if everything was working, and Tamara answered, sounded distracted, said she had to go, and hung up before I finished my sentence. When I came for Christmas that year, she pulled Derek aside right after dinner, and they disappeared for 40 minutes while I sat in the living room with the kids watching a movie. When they came back, she looked like she'd been crying. He looked careful. Neither of them told me what it was about. I drove home the next morning and spent New Year's Eve alone, wondering what I had done. The answer I eventually understood was nothing. I didn't have to do anything wrong. I just had to exist in a way that wasn't convenient for her. I talked to my friend Gloria about it. Not the one from work, but my college roommate, who lives in Raleigh and has 4 grown children and has seen every variation of family drama that life can produce. She listened to me for a long time one Sunday afternoon, over the phone. "She sounds like someone who resents needing you," Gloria said finally. "But I don't make her feel needed. I just help when they ask. That's the problem," Gloria said. "Some people can't stand being helped. It makes them feel smaller. So they have to make the person helping them feel smaller first." I thought about that for a long time. The year before Thanksgiving, Tamara asked me to help fund a kitchen renovation. They had gotten quotes, she said. The cheapest was $18,000. They could cover 10. Could I contribute the rest? I thought about it for 3 days. Not because I didn't have the money. I did, just barely without touching my retirement accounts. But because something about the ask felt different this time. There was no warmth in how she asked. "No, we'd really appreciate it. We know it's a lot." Just the number and the expectation. I said yes anyway. I told myself it was for Derek, for the grandchildren, for the family I wanted us to be. The renovation was finished in April. I came to see it in May. It was beautiful. White cabinets, quartz countertops, new appliances. Tamara showed me around with the energy of someone giving a tour of something they built themselves. She never mentioned my name in connection with it. Not once, including when her sister came over for dinner that evening and admired every detail. Derek squeezed my shoulder when we were alone in the hallway. "It looks great, doesn't it?" he said. "It does," I said. That was all either of us said about it. Thanksgiving that year started well enough. I arrived Wednesday afternoon. The kids ran out to meet me. Mason grabbed my bag. Lily held my hand walking up the porch steps. Those two, they were the reason I kept coming back. They were the reason for all of it, if I'm honest. Tamara was in a complicated mood. She'd been on the phone most of the afternoon with someone, I didn't know who, and she moved through the kitchen with a kind of tense efficiency that meant she wanted to be left alone. I kept the kids busy, helped where I could without getting in her way, and by Wednesday night, things felt almost normal. Thursday started fine. I woke up early and made coffee and sat in their beautiful new kitchen, watching the light come through the window, and thought that maybe I had been too sensitive. Maybe things were actually okay. By noon, the turkey was in the oven and Derek was watching football. And the kids were playing in the backyard. I was making the cranberry sauce when Tamara came in and mentioned, almost offhandedly, that her sister Janet, not my friend Gloria's granddaughter, a different person entirely, had called and wasn't going to make it. "Oh, I'm sorry," I said. "Is she all right?" "She's fine. She just didn't want to deal with the drive." Tamara said it flatly, like she was reading from a document. "Well, more food for us," I offered. She looked at me like I'd said something offensive. Then she walked out. Dinner was tense. I tried to keep conversation moving. I asked Mason about school, Lily about her dance class. Derek talked about a project at work. Tamara was quiet in the way that occupied the whole room. We were halfway through the meal when she set down her wine glass, and she said what she said. In the seconds after her words landed, I saw the whole architecture of the last 12 years clearly. Every check I wrote, every 4-hour drive, every birthday party where I felt like a guest who hadn't quite been invited. Every time Derek said she's just stressed. Mom, try not to take it personally. I looked at Mason and Lily, who were staring at their plates now. They were old enough to understand what had just been said, old enough to remember it. You might be right, I said. So from now on, I'll stop. She laughed. Stop what? All of it. I excused myself from the table. I went to the guest room, sat on the edge of the bed, and breathed slowly for 5 full minutes. Not crying, just breathing. Then I came back, helped clear the table, played a board game with the grandchildren, and went to sleep. I didn't say another word about it that night. I drove home Friday morning. Derek walked me to my car and I could see he wanted to say something, but I got there first. I love you, I said. I love those kids more than anything. But I need some time. Mom, I'm not angry, I said. I'm just done pretending. He looked stricken. But he didn't argue, which told me he had known this was coming for longer than I had. I drove 4 hours home. I didn't cry until I was 2 miles from my house, and even then it was more relief than grief. That afternoon I sat down at my kitchen table with a legal pad, and I wrote down, as clearly as I could, everything I had given in the last 12 years. Not to be bitter. To be honest with myself. Because I had spent so long telling myself it was all freely given that I had stopped examining whether any of it had been freely received. The number, when I added it up, was just over $92,000. I stared at that number for a long time. Then I called my attorney. Not to sue anyone. I want to be clear about that. I called her because I needed to understand what my options were regarding the money. I had already planned to leave Derek in my will, and whether there were ways to restructure things that protected the grandchildren directly without routing everything through Tamara. My attorney, a sharp woman in her 50s named, well, I'll just call her my attorney, listened carefully and then asked me a question I hadn't expected. Have you ever documented any of this? The transfers, the gifts, the conversations. I have bank records, I said, and some texts where she asked for things. Hold on to those, she said. Not because you're going to need them for litigation, just because clarity is valuable, for your own sake. That was good advice, I took it. December came and went quietly. I sent the grandchildren their Christmas gifts by mail, carefully chosen, wrapped by hand, with notes inside each one. I sent Derek a card. I did not send Tamara anything, for the first time in 12 years, and I did not call. Derek called me on December 23rd. I let it go to voicemail. He said he missed me. He said the kids missed me. He said Tamara wanted to talk. I didn't call back that day. I sat with the voicemail like it was a thing I needed to look at carefully before I touched it. On December 26th, Derek called again. This time I picked up. She wants to apologize, he said. Does she? Silence. She knows she went too far, Derek, I said. I've been coming to your house for 12 years. I have loved your wife and your children and your life with everything I have. And she called me useless in front of your children. I paused. I need more than she went too far. He was quiet for a moment. What do you need? I need her to say it to me, not through you. To me directly in a real conversation. And I need to know that you, Derek, not just her, understand what has been happening. Another silence. Longer this time. I know, he said finally. I know I've let things go too long. That was the first honest thing he had said to me in years, and I felt it move through me like something loosening. Okay, I said, then let's talk. Tamara called me 3 days after New Year's. I had not expected her to actually do it, and when her name came up on my phone, I sat very still for a moment before I answered. She started with the kind of apology that isn't quite an apology. I'm sorry if I upset you. I was stressed. The holidays are hard for me. I let her go through all of it without interrupting. When she finished, there was a silence. Tamara, I said, I've spent 12 years trying to be the mother you didn't have. I wanted that for you, genuinely. But what you said at that table wasn't about stress. It was about something you've been carrying for a long time, and I think we both know that." She didn't say anything. "I'm not going to keep showing up and pretending," I continued. "Not for the sake of keeping the peace. That doesn't help you, and it doesn't help me, and honestly, it doesn't help those children to watch the adults in their lives perform a relationship that isn't real." "I don't know what you want from me," she said. Her voice had changed, softer. Something in it that might have been genuine. "I want honesty," I said. "I want you to stop needing me to be small so you can feel okay. And I want my son back. Not the version of him who manages me from a distance, my actual son." There was a long pause. "I didn't know you felt managed," she said. "I know you didn't," I said. "That's part of why we're here. We didn't fix everything on that phone call. That's not how real life works, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise." What we did was begin. Tamara agreed to see a family therapist, something Derek had apparently been suggesting for 2 years. I agreed to come for Easter and to try approaching things differently. Less quietly accommodating, more honest in the moment. It wasn't easy. The first few months were awkward in a way that sometimes felt worse than the silence. But slowly, cautiously, something began to shift. What changed most was Derek. Once I stopped absorbing everything quietly, he had to stop hiding behind my patience. He started having actual conversations with his wife about how she spoke to his mother. He started calling me just to talk, not just to smooth things over. He started being, again, the son I raised. Lily told me at Easter, very seriously, while we were coloring eggs at my kitchen table, that her mommy was learning to be better at saying sorry. "Are you learning that too?" I asked her. She nodded solemnly. "We all are, 9 years old, and already wiser than the adults in her life had been for years. I'm telling you this not because it has a perfect ending, but because I think a lot of women in my position, older, widowed or divorced, mothers of grown sons, grandmothers trying to hold families together, spend years doing what I did. Giving quietly, absorbing quietly, telling themselves that keeping the peace is the same as keeping the love. It isn't. The love, the real kind, requires honesty. It requires people to see each other clearly and choose to stay anyway. What I was doing before wasn't love. It was management. I was managing a relationship that should have been real. I don't regret the money. I regret the silence that came with it. If you're sitting at a table somewhere, hearing words that cut through the laughter like a blade, and you're about to smile and let it go, because that feels like the safer thing, I want you to know that there is another choice. It won't be easy. It will be awkward and frightening, and some days it will feel like you've broken something that can't be repaired. But the thing you're protecting by staying quiet, that was already broken. You were just the only one carrying the pieces. Put them down. Say what's true. See what survives. In my experience, the things that are real always do.